with Aaron Rzepka. If you want to join me on stage. Aaron is the Director of IT, IT Service Delivery at the NFL. So in our prep call, we had a lot of debate about, I guess it wasn't a lot of debate, NFL versus CFL. Maybe had to explain a few things about the CFL, but we're really excited to have you here, Aaron.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to maybe give a little bit of a background, because through the morning, we've had people on stage that are the users of the technology versus the builders and the owners of the technology. You're actually the person we need to go and talk to when we have our great ideas. So can you give me a little bit of background of what you do at the NFL?
Sure. So I've been with the NFL for right around 13 years. And with the NFL, in the service delivery realm, we actually have a balance between our fans and fan consumers, as well as our back office and staff as consumers as well. And so we have to deliver systems that are for our back office and complete running of the organization, as well as systems that give our fans the best possible experience to enjoy our product.
So many, many different stakeholders, all with ideas of where and how technology should be implemented in their teams.
Yeah, the one thing about the NFL is most vendors, when they hear NFL, the first thing they think of is multiple dollar signs.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. The NFL is very segmented when you think of an organization. They have, each club is actually its own business, and they are run independently. And then being at the league, we manage, the processes and rules and governance across the clubs, but we don't necessarily tell them how to run their business.
Interesting. So then the hope is that with your guidance, with your governance, they are implementing, and the fan experience across all of the different groups is very, very similar.
Yes, we actually even work directly with all of their IT teams. I actually am a chairman of a committee that was designed for innovation of consumer experience products, and we created these think tank or pods of research groups between different areas within the NFL league, and then those corresponding areas with the clubs. And so that way, each organization is has a very small technology group. And so we could put together a group of experts that all have a similar focus, which is very unique at the NFL. There isn't a lot of other organizations that operate and sell a product like we do. And so to find other people with that experience was very difficult. And so these pods allow us to really dive into the technology and to find our best case scenarios. It lets us simulate that technology and then see where we can implement it, and gives us the best possible chance to get that into production.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things we want to talk about and we want to focus on is around self-service. Earlier today, we were talking about Gen AI for chatbots. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers within the NFL. I know it's Thursday, Sundays is your big day, but thousands and hundreds of thousands. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what Tier 0 is when we think about self-services, and this is a true example coming out of the NFL. You all won't know Tier 0 is not a new AI buzzword you have to worry about. It is very specific to Aaron, but it gives a good sense of the idea of self-service and what that can mean.
So Tier 0 is really, being able to do kind of everything on your own and never needing to ask somebody for assistance. It's not having to reach out to an IT team and creating a ticket or doing any of those activities. Instead, you're able to go to an app, go through a troubleshooting step, find the information that you need all at the palm of your hand. And so for us, first, my goal is always to implement a solution where you can actually find it from your cell phone. And the reason being is it is the one technology tool today that everybody carries with them everywhere they go. And so, you don't see people carrying laptops everywhere as much anymore or as connected to it. But as you've seen in today's youth all the way to our older adults, the one thing they do have is they always have a cell phone. And so if you can solve all of your problems on your own from your cell phone without having to reach out to anyone, I think that gives you the best experience. And there's two ways to look at that too, is even if you can solve problems, but it's very challenging, that's not actually a great experience, even though it is tier 0.
Absolutely. So it's almost like regardless of the technology, which is mobile dependent, it is a methodology within your organization allowing people to solve their own problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, our goal for any technology user that we have within the NFL is that A, they can solve their own issue, and B, it doesn't matter where they are. And the reason why that's so important is that we travel constantly for our games. Even today, 20% of my team is actually in Spain to do the first NFL game in Madrid. And so, before that, they were in Berlin. And we don't really have IT people beyond my team that's there, and so they're supporting an event that's large scale across the city. We can't, drive somewhere or get somewhere very quickly. So the better scenario is that we've enabled our user base and our workforce to be able to solve those issues on their own, or my team can actually solve their issue from anywhere in the world.
Love that. Yes, NFL is global now. I remember. And you reminded me to put my picks in.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Very important.
Very important, getting my picks in. Okay, so when we think about almost processes and functions within your organization, what have you seen that have been the most beneficial to automation so far on such a huge scale?
The area that I was the most excited to automate was actually an area that touches every organization and every company, and is actually one of the most complex processes that every organization has. And it's actually a very simple one. It's your onboarding and offboarding process. So if you ever thought about how difficult it is for somebody to start as a new employee and how much paperwork and how many different hands touch a system or a process, entering data and getting that person into your company for the first day, it's actually very large. So instead, if you can get it to a point where the new hire gets sent a link before they even start, they fill out all the information, and already you know that information has a 99% chance to be accurate because it's not a random person filling it out. It's the actual person who owns the data and knows how to spell their name, knows which name they want to use, knows where they live and everything else. And then they populate that data and they send it across. And years ago, we would have somebody who would collect that information and retype it into a system. Instead, now that information is automatically fed into an HRIS system. And then that system generates a request to automatically send that across to an enterprise delivery tool. That delivery tool then routes the information to IT, security, facilities, and all these other areas. And we could have stopped there, but we actually didn't. Instead, the IT systems then automatically generate AD accounts, their phones. It starts triggering a laptop to be built. From the facility side, the desk has already been selected automatically. Facility knows to go generate the desk. From the picture that the person submitted when they submitted the form, security is able to already create their badge. So that way, when they show up for their first day, we can just hand them a badge. They don't have to go take a picture. So by the time they start, almost everything is all ready to go for them. And it's not just easier on all the teams, because we used to have all these different staff members doing all these different tasks. It also sets up the new hire for almost the best possible start, because when you start a new job, you don't really want to worry about any of these things. You're already nervous enough walking in the front door and filled with excitement to really just start meeting your coworkers. The actual number one question that a new hire has is, where's the bathroom? That's really the first thing that they're thinking about, is where do I get coffee from? Not how do I log into all these systems, where do I go to get a desk and then be told, oh, go to IT and get a laptop. Instead, everything's already there for them. And that's what really creates that huge employee experience. And my opinion is that your employees, when they start their first day, actually sets the whole trajectory for their career moving forward. The better and more happy they are and more excited they are about their start, they will continue that and flourish throughout their career with that, versus the first thing they think about is, did I make the right decision?
My goodness. And I think that what that shows us is that it doesn't always have to be the sexiest thing out there. The idea of just automating desk selection and your laptop being triggered and having it prepared, I mean, that's emotional. I'm already coming into the building, like you said, so incredibly nervous. And then if I have to run around like a crazy pants trying to find all of the pieces, like my badge and this and that, like, that's not a sexy fix, but I'm sure one that has, and to your point, carries so many benefits throughout the business.
It really does, but also it's kind of, I used to be on LinkedIn and see all these people post the picture of their first day and how excited they were. I wanted them to have that experience at the NFL too. We're a really cool brand, and everybody should be very excited about being at the NFL. And so, I wanted them to walk around and take pictures and do all the fun things versus have to worry about doing all these other, mundane tasks that should have been just done for you. And I won't even go into the fact that somebody has, when we used to have it manual, the HR team might misspell somebody's name, and then the IT team creates an email address that's wrong, and then that person sees that you've completely misspelled their name and how annoying that is, and everybody pointing fingers at whose problem it is and whose fault.
Yeah. Helps everybody. I like that. So when we think about measurement, many people lean in and think about automation and self-service as a reduction in human touches. But I think that it goes far beyond that. When you think about success, and whether this is the internal employee or your external customer, what are the measurements? How do you really start to look at the initiatives that your team's pushed out, and how do they judge whether or not they were successful?
So it's really around adoption and experience. Mm-hmm. And so, the first kind of thing that we look at is, are people actually using the tool, the process, or whatever we have implemented at tier 0? Because if you create the perfect tool, but you only have 2 or 3 people using it, then you either need to adjust how you're marketing it, you need to reevaluate how it works, and make sure that people can actually think that it's friendly and easy to use. And that kind of ties into where I was going with the experience. So you can have the best tool in the world, but if it doesn't have a very simplified and easy user experience, you're just not going to get a lot of people that use it. And so, before you spend lots and lots of money on any of these tools, you want to make sure that it has a great user experience, it's very simple, and then you want to make sure that you market it and that the organization really needs it and it solves an actual problem that has a lot of use cases.
Mm-hmm. And I think that as owners that come to IT for deployment or builds, et cetera, we're incredibly passionate about what we want you to build for us. That's what storytelling's all about. And I think that part of it has to be, you're almost a gateway for success for initiatives that are going to be rolled out to the organization, because you're going to hear logistics and you're going to hear, different teams. You're going to hear HR and marketing. Everybody wants a piece of what your team can offer. So that measurement piece is going to become the most important, of where you assign your resources and say to the organization you want to spend dollars.
Absolutely. And just because somebody from our business asks us to build something, a lot of times they have kind of an idea of what they want, or they introduce us to a product. The first thing I ask them is, what's this last outcome supposed to be? What's your end goal? So that way we make sure that we build the right product.
Yes. We all have great ideas. I will tell you, I've been on the business side for a long time, and I had to work my way around a few CTOs to get what I wanted. And the best way to do it is to take on management of all of the capital in the organization, because then you can allocate it all to yourself.
Yes.
Just another little tip for everybody. Okay, so earlier we talked about the balance of technology and humans. Technology is moving at the speed of light. This is the world you live in. Humans are not. We have very different levels of skill set, understanding of technology. How do you balance the implementation and the speed of implementation for automation across the organization with the human needs and the human touch in delivering service to your customers?
So we're very good about marketing and kind of reaching out to all of the business and then looking for change champions across the organization to ensure that we're following the right or I should say timed approach of how we want to implement new technology. And for us, we also have to follow the football season. And so we can't actually make large-scale changes while football's going on because the last thing we want to do is impact our product. And so we have a very short window, actually, of when we can make large-scale technology changes. And that's not just in IT, it's any of the business applications or anything else that focuses in on how the game is played. So what we have to do is create 3 to 5 year plans where we actually look at our large-scale production systems and when we want to make those changes. And then by ensuring that our business teams have members within our change champions to market and push that product across, that's how we can really get buy-in across the entire organization. And then also we have our QA and testers will be a part of those different departments. So we have people who are educated in those departments as well on the changes we're trying to make. In the last 10 years, the speed of technology, which technology was already moving very quickly, but now it's moving even faster because of AI and all these different kind of changes, and look at how AI is going to change everybody else's organization.
My goodness. Oh, so I come from retail, so code freeze was typically October to December, free run in January. With it, our teams had like 7-8 months. So is your code freeze really from February or February to September is the only time you can kind of push code?
So we can push code, but it has to be non-game impacting code, or we have to plan around our games. So, and I'll use a security example. I mean, there are tier 0 vulnerabilities where you have to implement those. We just can't implement those on a Thursday or a Monday or a Sunday. And the hard part is Sundays, usually when people test after they implement, because most people implement on Saturdays. So instead, we have to do, usually Friday night's kind of our best night to push code. But, for like the Super Bowl, which is, most people think of as a single day event, is actually a 10-day event. So we do freeze almost all code during that event because we can't make changes at any point. Now, if it is a tier 0 vulnerability, we'll push it through, but we do have to plan around that. It's funny to think about other organizations and the code freezes. And in previous life, when I was at the VA, we had to do it around hospital treatments and other things. We couldn't push code. And so it's just fascinating, the change. But the NFL is an interesting place.
It certainly is. Now, and I know Super Bowl is your Black Friday, but your Black Friday is 10 days versus ours, which is really just 3 to 4 days. Got it. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about culture and collaboration, because you have to live a life that is all about influence, bringing teams together, ensuring collaboration and cross-functionality with all of it. You have operations teams, you have CX teams, you have now all of the individual football organizations. How do you and how does your team approach kind of the cross-functionality required to implement some of these changes?
So when we really think about, years and years ago, IT would develop tools and then push tools to the business. That kind of time doesn't really work for us anymore. So now, you have the business who want tools, and they actually go look at vendors, and they're like, I want to implement this. And instead, we're like, well, we already have a tool that does that, or we should look at these other tools. So instead, what we have to do is create a completely shared goal between IT and the business. And that way, the business is working hand in hand with us from the beginning, and they're forecasting the tools that they're looking for. And so that way, we can help them research that. And you actually will get a much more satisfied IT organization and business unit when they realize that they're both stakeholders in this together and working as a single team versus, one thinking that IT is forcing tools on them and the other thinking that the business doesn't understand what they really want, and we're not going to do that, which a lot of companies were in that situation. We were years and years ago. And then now with all the digital side and the digital transformation, it's not even just the business, it's that you have to have all different segments of the business. They also have to be on the same page. And the reason being is before you'd have one group that wants a tool, and that tool's only for that group. And now when we think of tools, you want to think about how many business units can use this tool and share the data across. And that's one of the most important things to do now because of AI.
It almost changes the skill set of our IT teams and our service delivery teams to be not just technically sound, but also to truly start to understand the business functions, to truly understand what are the KPIs that HR might be looking for, or logistics, or merchandising. I'm thinking those are parts of your organization too. But you actually now need to understand each business owner, what are their motivators, what are they trying to do? Because if you bring in a solution, you have to be thinking, how can I fit this into 10 versus reacting to one business's request? Does that change kind of the structure and how you hire your team?
Yeah, we actually have team members that are focused on sitting in with the business and learning what their goals are and focusing in on how they can really find tools to either increase productivity, make more efficiency, reduce monotonous tasks and different things like that, and try to help them throughout their entire process. As far as long years and years ago, we could just learn networking and app development and all these different tasks, but now we actually need to have a full understanding of how your organization operates. And we need to understand how our consumers operate, which in this case would be, consumer products, legal, football operations, and all these different areas. And so that way we actually can understand what they do and what they use. And so IT really has pivoted to be much more business focused as well as strategic than just operational and back office.
I think it has to be. I think it has to be, especially with AI coming. It's here. So when we think about continuous learning, I think that we're in a state where all of us are living in continuous learning. How do you manage that within your teams? They have full-time roles. They have projects to deliver. You want them to continue to develop. You want them to continue to learn. AI is overwhelming them with new opportunities. How do you kind of set that structure within your team so that they are ahead of what is coming, especially in a kind of an age where it changes every day?
So you have two aspects. You have to continuously improve and learn about technology, and then we have to continuously improve and learn about our business. And so, today one of the NFL's biggest pushes is for international expansion. We are a global product now, but you can see that I think we have 7 games this year. Before we only had 4, and 10 years ago we had 0. So it's kind of the scenario where we're trying to increase our fan and viewership across the world and give everybody the opportunity to enjoy football. So, we're learning about AI, new development tools, and all different ways to build technology, but we also are learning how our business operates and where we can be utilized to expand. It is very difficult to balance all of that. It is an expectation of us. And, we meet with lots and lots of different vendors that go through technology with us. We try to improve through that. We also have the pods that I was talking about previously, where we create those research and collaboration groups. And we're using like-minded resources to really help us educate each other. And then once those pods actually define and look at a product, we then have them show that product to all of the league IT resources and all of the club's resources. So it goes from being a 6-person group to a 6-person group presenting to a 150-person group. And so that way we can educate each other on tools.
So sharing and learning. I mean, you have to when you're at the size of the NFL. It really has to be part of your culture, part of who you are, your DNA is sharing what each business is learning.
100%. And it's, being at the NFL and, providing a sport, we're also athletes in our sport, which happens to be IT and other areas within the business. I just never get drafted and don't make nearly as much money as the athletes.
Oh, I have so many jokes, but I will not make them. Okay. So now, let's look forward. Let's assume you had unlimited resources. The CEO of the NFL has said, Aaron, it is up to you. You build our future. What are some of the first things that you are going to do to future-proof your business, your team, given the pace of change that's happening?
You know, it's a great question because if we had infinite money, which people think the NFL does, but we don't, our budgets are very, very, very small for this. I think that having a unified intelligence operational layer would really be kind of the biggest key goal. And what I mean by that is, as I was saying before, within your organizations, you used to have hundreds of applications, and they weren't connected at all. But now, they all have to be connected. And so that way, AI can go across each system and look for patterns, commonality, and all these different opportunities for your organization. And to do that is very expensive. So when you think about having an unlimited budget, it would be amazing that you can have all your systems integrated and then use AI to look at being predictive instead of reactive to any challenges or issues within your business. And so when AI can cross all those different applications and products, it can then look at those patterns, identify a trend, report it to you that you need to take an action before it ever is a problem. Instead, most of us operate today that somebody says, hey, I have this problem, or you'll see something, you'll say, we have 500 tickets, we need to solve this, it's a problem. Instead, it would be something that can just scale across your entire business stream and then say, these are all your problems, these are the potential solutions, we recommend this one. And you only have to look at one solution instead of 100. But I think that would be what I would try to implement.
That is lofty. It is lofty, because I think many around the room are sitting on a lot of legacy technology, a lot of technical debt, just trying to update. We referenced earlier many systems aren't up to the 2025 standards, let alone future thinking. So I love that goal. Let me know if you achieve it.
I will, and then I will need somebody to help me market it and sell it to everybody else.
This is it. We'll be bajillionaires. Okay, we have about a minute and a half. Are there any questions in the room for Aaron? Not his prediction for Super Bowl champ? We have one right up here, my friend. What is your biggest challenge right now, Aaron?
It's not Super Bowl predictions. We've got that nailed. No, I'm just kidding. I think that finding, everybody keeps using AI as a buzzword.
Yes.
And everybody's like, you need to implement AI. And most people don't understand that, AI has actually been around for forever. It's really finding the right use case with the right cost and the right return on investment. And it's very difficult to find those solutions. And then most companies that are coming to you saying they can implement AI, they actually haven't done it yet. Instead, they're looking for you to pay their company to be a company, and they'll solve it for you. I think that AI is probably our biggest challenge, and then that ties to security and other issues with AI.